So our session today is going to really focus on how you might make use of understanding the changing brain. And to do that, I'm going to go through the possibility that you might have multiple roles. And if you have multiple roles, then there are multiple ways to use this. But even if you only have one role, there are some ways you could use this. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen because I do have a PowerPoint. And the PowerPoint will be available after the webinar if you want to take a look at it. So we'll figure out how to make it available. Someone will tell you that. I was going to put something and then I realized, oh, that's not how we're going to do this one. So we'll figure it out. I'm not sure what the answer is. Someone will come up with the answer and tell me what it is. So we are going to be first thinking about what are the possible roles that you might have. And the first is just personal. How might you personally use this book? So I'll give you some ideas about what you could do that way. And then there's if you're a leader of a group. So if you're a leader of a group or you want to lead a group of individuals, whoever they might be in some category, then it might even be that you're just a member of a group and you might find some way to use this book. That'll just be a little sidebar there, though. And then what if you're a trainer or an educator? How could you use this book? Or if you're a coach or somebody who's care supporting others. So you're trying to help other people develop their care skills and do the care that we're asking them to do. Or you might be a consultant or a counselor. So your job is to help a group of people or an individual or a client better figure out what's going on. Or finally, you might be a care plan coordinator. Your job is to come up with a care plan and implement the care plan for someone living with dementia. Now, I'm curious how many people on this call think they probably fit into more than one of these categories? What do you think? How many of you only see you yourself as an individual? You're not leading groups or a member of groups. You're not a trainer or an educator. You're not a coach or a care supporter. You're not a consultant or counselor. You're not a care coordinator. Or you're only one of those. What do you think?
So Tipa, people are saying quite a few yeses to two or more than one or a few or many hats or several.
Yeah, it turns out when we get into the world of dementia, rarely are we only in one category. It turns out before very long, if we're in this for very long, we start going, ooh, I wish she understood what I figured out so that we're not having to have her figure it out from scratch I wish I knew what she knew, or I wish I knew how to help her some, or I wish she would quit trying this because it's not work, that kind of idea that we are in this together and trying to figure out how we might use this resource. So I'm going to start with some personal use options. And I'm going to give you some references and resources there. So the first one is you might just read it to develop your own awareness, knowledge, and maybe even try out a couple skills about brains and what changes when somebody's living with dementia. You could just actually read the book. So I'm going to have you read, we'll read one together, just a little bit. So let's turn to the very back of the book. We're going to go back to the very back, and I'm going to have you use a picture. So go to page 152, if you would, the epilogue, 152. And I'm curious right away, what do you see? What do you see there? What's the visual that sticks out?
Two sponges.
Two sponges. There you go. So the question in the book is which sponge can hold more water? Which one do you think literally can just hold more water? Yeah. So probably the bigger one because, bigger sponges hold more stuff, bigger people. So lean in here, Dan. Dan is bigger than me. Significantly bigger than me. So he can hold more of everything than I can, mostly.
Except for content.
Except for maybe content.
City names.
Names of cities, maybe something like that. Which brain might be able to handle stress better? If you stress that brain, which one do you think would handle stress better?
Well, someone said the smaller one. Several people said the larger one. Someone else said it might depend on the density.
Okay. So it really, all of a sudden, it's not so clear cut. All right. Now, what brain or what sponge might be more helpful? Oh, brain, sponge. Do you notice that? We transitioned a little bit.
No, someone said either.
Yeah, it really sort of
depends on the task.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So now we can go through the rest of this page. What do you think I'm hoping you would walk away having looked at this page and the next page, reading that? What am I trying to get a human brain when they read this content to be willing to accept? Do you think in that moment? Just reading it for yourself. What do you think?
So people are noticing that the difference is okay. Everyone has value and you can't just make assumptions.
Yeah, I mean, it's true that one brain is going to be bigger than the other by the end of dementia. It's true that one of these sponges is bigger than the other, but to make assumptions about value, about what's interesting, about usefulness, boy, we make a lot of assumptions. So, Christine, you were going to say something too.
I was going to say exactly what Brenda said. Everyone has value. Yeah. There's value in both sponges.
Yeah, and sometimes just having that big sponge, boy, you can miss a lot of stuff. I mean, you might not be able to get in the little nooks and crannies that you want to, except you might have a lot of stress. So one thing is just reading the book, giving yourself time to think about it. Maybe, go to a book club after. It's up to you. But then another option is to use it as a resource or a go-to option when you notice something. So I've read something and I noticed that that the person that I'm trying to support and trying to help, I've noticed that lately it seems like they are hitting the sweets like nobody's business. Man, they are wanting sugar and glucose. And I'm really curious about it. And I sort of remember there was something about this in chapter 8. So if folks would turn to chapter 8, see anything that you notice in chapter 8 there that, that makes you wonder about that. Anything visible or you notice at all in chapter 8? Page 79, starts on page 79.
Something that really catches my eye, Teepa, I started on 79, but I flipped ahead.
Uh-huh.
And I saw a tongue.
Oh, and so because we were talking about, they really seem to be wanting sweets a lot.
Mm-hmm. That caught my eye about taste.
Yeah, so I wonder if there's something going on with their sense of taste. Oh, and if you had really read the book, you might be able to find another section that talks about glucose and the primitive brain. So what I'm hinting at here is even if you use it for personal reasons, it's not necessarily just a read through and be done. What you may want to think about is, okay, so you read it through, but then when you're having things happening to you, you may want to be able to reference back. So you may want to think, I know for some of you, this seems horrible, but maybe you could make notes in the margin, put sticky tabs in, actually write a little something off to the side so that what you have is when you're done, you have a way to go back and look at some things, reference some things. Certainly there is a table of contents at the very beginning, or an index, I guess you would call it, table of contents, that has each of the chapters. But as you read it, you may find that we cover a couple of things in some of the chapters, and it may be worth highlighting them somewhere so you can go back to them later if you're interested or need it. Okay. Third way, sometimes what this would do is help you appreciate how your own brain is working or glitching or not doing what you want it to do, or get to know yourself a little bit. So for instance, let's look at a page where it's in chapter 13, the very last page of chapter 13. Anxiety, depression, delirium, dementia. There's 4 circles and they're intersecting. So I'm wondering how much my anxiety might be impacting somebody else's dementia, how much what I'm getting anxious about might be a delirium versus a dementia, how much my anxiety might be due to what I think is depression in myself. And if I get depressed, and if I don't have any energy, and if I can't do this anymore, and if I'm worn out, how is this possibly? How am I going to do this? So you might then want to look back further in the chapter and sort of go, so what can you do about depression? Oh, look back a few pages and you'll see strategies that might help when there's things like depression. Because there's a whole little segment on focusing on depression. Because this book wasn't just meant for changing brains and meaning people who are developing dementia. It also means those of us who are trying to support people living with dementia when we're noticing our brain is changing. So that's an example. So what are some things you noticed there when you went back in the chapter? Anybody got anything that popped out at them? That you can do when you think there might be some depression going on here?
Absolutely. The first thing I saw was physical strategies to help. And they seem kind of proactive or good action items, like make a list, determine what you can do, but also look around and see who can partner with you in whatever it is that you're going through or facing. So maybe you're not so alone. And then I really like short-term goals and start with baby steps.
There you go. Cool.
Almost kind of feels like it's given myself a break almost to just handle something little at a time instead of trying to
take
everything
it all
at
on.
once.
Yeah, which when you're in a state of down mood, or whether it's active depression or whether it's a combination of anxiety and depression, that can be a real challenge. So recognizing our mental health, our physical health, our well-being is tied to how well this is all going to go. So these are still personal uses. So, I can give you more. Sometimes it could just help you understand a relationship doesn't have anything to do with dementia. Because it could be that somebody else in your world is showing you some things. And I happen to know that there are people on this webinar that have children and have spouses and have friends and have not friends and have family that they sometimes like and sometimes don't like and sometimes help and sometimes don't help. So sometimes the stuff in here may be just beneficial at helping you appreciate maybe what's going on in other relationships and holding yourself accountable or recognizing, wow, I'm starting to see some shifts over there. Oh my heavens. Ooh, could it possibly be something more than just what it's always been? It feels different. Now, that's personal. So there's all those things. But then let's talk about group leaders. What could you do as a group leader? And I've been doing a little bit of this, but have everybody read a chapter ahead of time, and then let's have a discussion. So they write it and think of a few things ahead of time, and then afterward we meet and we talk about it. So I was curious, what did you know about, let's say, here we go. We'll look at chapter 10, which is wandering. Am I there yet? And, we're going to look at that, the idea of elopement, wandering, people getting lost, people not being where they should be and worrying about that. And do they need a secured setting? So we can read that chapter ahead of time. So if you just look at the first page of the chapter, we're not going to, do a lot of reading, but just the first page, what are some things that jump out at you? Because we designed the book in a certain way that things would jump out at you. We're sneaky. What jumps out?
The 6 out of 10 people will wander.
So greater than 50% of everybody who develops some form of dementia will. And what does wandering mean? Let's see here. They are in a place. Well, we'll have to read and see what does wandering. What is that? But what it means is over 60% of people who are living with dementia at some point will not be where they're supposed to be, where they think they are, where I think they are. And that's not good. And then what else is on that page that sort of sticks out? Just on that one page.
So people were mentioning that the bold print catches their attention.
Yeah. So one of the things you're going to find is in this book, when you see bold print, that's going to be sort of an identifier or something of note or something that leads to some information under it that might be of note. So for instance, down near the bottom of the page, I believe, or on the next page, beginning of the next page, be on the lookout for the following warning signs. So now we're sort of identifying, so what are some of the things that might be a heads up for me to sort of pay attention to so we don't actually have to have the person wonder, W-A-N-D-E-R, not W-O-N-D-E-R. What might be some things I'm starting to notice that would give me a heads up that I might want to put alerts or alarms on doorways, on windows, on things, because I may or may not be picking up on everything as quickly as I might. So that's an example. Another one is I could pre-read it as the group leader and tab it, and then I'd have a go-to resource to use when people in the group ask me things about symptoms, about conditions, about situations, about issues. It gives me some go-to, and then I can share that with them so that I'm not just giving an opinion. I'm giving some information that's linked to some evidence, some research, some bigger picture stuff. So it allows us to be more of a resource in a group rather than just an opinion person or someone who's trying to manage the group. Additionally, you can use 1 or 2 pages as a resource for discussion. So we're going to turn to page 1415. So let's kick over to page 1415. All right, so let's see what people notice about those 2 pictures. What do y'all notice? So I have 2 people here, by the way, and I have you guys. So take a look at those 2 pages. I'm sort of holding them up here. What do you notice about those 2 pages right away? What's similar? What's different?
Things have changed. We've learned some things.
Wow. So in 1995, at least Teepa only had a couple things under her umbrella. And in 2019, which means 25 years, essentially, and whoa, what do we got?
So Teepa, people were picking up that the second one has much more detail, but they're also picking up on the black and white versus color. A lot more and more detail on the second one.
Back in 1995, we were still often using overheads and we were having to use slides and we were clicking through our slide deck or our little visuals when we're doing programs. I mean, things have changed dramatically. 1995, we were using black and white handouts to understand this stuff. So I was one of the few people that actually had the umbrella. I mean, I was still unique in 1995 because a lot of people were just saying Alzheimer's disease. And I wasn't. I was saying there's Alzheimer's disease, but that's part of the bigger category of dementia. So now we have a lot more. So now let's talk about, so if your last experience was with your mom or your grandmom in 1995 or 2000, what's the possibility that she might have been inaccurately diagnosed and that what you thought was her dementia might, and what you think is going to be happening if you developed Alzheimer's might be very different? What do you think? Because what we thought and what we now know, wow. And if you want to, go a step further, go ahead and go forward and look at Alzheimer's, Lewy body vascular, and frontal temporal. Now, as a group, we can start going, okay, so let's look at what some of the symptoms are that your folks are exploring. Let's look at that. So we went from 1995 2019. And now we're looking at, what we know about this thing called dementia and some of the different dementias. So what does that mean as a member of a group if I have a leader who is aware of this and can help me problem solve through this and think about this when I'm in a group, whether I'm a person who's living with dementia, whether I'm a care partner, whether I'm a staff member, or whether I'm just curious. I've had a previous experience with dementia in my life. What's going to help me do?
I really think it's going to help connect with everybody. Somebody's going to be able to connect with some piece of this because the umbrella is very inclusive.
Yeah. And so what happens frequently when they turn to the specific symptoms is somebody says, so my mom used to see little kids all the time. And somebody else will say, oh, no, my mom only did that when she got a UTI. So your mom probably had a UTI. So, now what? As a leader of a group. Wow, sounds like people have had two very different experiences. So your mom only saw children when she had UTIs, but your mom saw children a lot of the time and talked about that. So I'm wondering if maybe there were some different dementias involved rather than all the same kind. Because it sounds like, where did you find the one where she saw children all the time? Where was that? Which one?
So people are saying that you could use this to explore deeper and go further into the symptoms and the different types of dementia, so that maybe it would be less of a cookie cutter approach and people would learn that there are different symptoms with different dementias.
Yeah, because if my mom has Lewy body and I hear, oh, well, you see children when there's a UTI, but my mom actually has Lewy body dementia, we're going to be spending a lot of time checking out UTIs when in fact, what I have is just a symptom of the dementia that she has. And we really do want to learn how to manage that, but it's not going to be with checking for a UTI. Now, we might also consider having folks read a few pages and come prepared with their awareness, their situation, their experience, and then compare it to what Teepa says in what she talks about, and look at how we could compare those two things and figure it out. So if we look at page 8 through 12, for instance, like the idea of, instead of doing it the way we did it, we look at the text where in 1995, what was Teepa doing before 1995? I've been around a long time. 1988, I was teaching, and we would call it senile dementia Alzheimer's type, or OBS, organic brain syndrome, or we'd also called it hardening of the arteries. Some of them got the hardening of the arteries. Now, that could help me as a group leader appreciate, where are my learners? What did they know? What did they know coming in? And when they hear all this new stuff like vascular and normal onset, well, we don't use that anymore. Lewy body dementia, LBD. All of a sudden, people are learning to speak a new language. But we want to know what language they speak coming into the group. And this book helps people translate what they thought they knew into some new possibilities. So that's leading a group. Now, I'm going to have folks think for a few seconds. What if you were a member of a group? What do you think you could do if you were a member of a group and you had a book? What might that do for you? Any ideas?
So someone said maybe using it as a reference or sharing what you're learning, active engagement in the group and asking questions.
Yeah, so I'll give you an example without the book. Okay, because I've been in lots of support groups as an example, and lots of training groups. So I'm going to say to my training partner here, or my other group member here, and and we'll have a leader. Rachel, you'll be the group leader. Oh, yeah. Hey, Ann. Imagine where we are. So I'm going to say to the group leader in just a second, I'm going to say, so, my mom has started swearing, and honest to Pete, she's never done this before. I am like, I said to her, Mom, you can't do that. I mean, she did it to somebody in the parking lot. And I just said, Mom, don't. And she then cursed me out. I feel like she probably needs a new med.
So you're thinking she needs a new med?
Well, I mean, she's never done this before. I mean, I want to know where she picked that up.
So group, I'm wondering if anybody of you have had any experiences with this with your people.
Yeah, my dad, I used to hear him every now and then when he was with his buddies, and especially on the golf course, but never in front of my mom. And now it's just like at dinner table, he's saying words that it just doesn't seem like him. Like he thinks he's with his buddies or something. I don't know. But I said, got to the point I don't want to go out to dinner with him.
Yeah, you can't take people anywhere when they start doing stuff like that. I mean, you really have to pull back. Okay, who else is in the group? Because Rachel can only lead the group. And if she doesn't have the book, who else is in our group? Because you got two people piling on. So this is not an unusual phenomenon. I have a really bad situation and Dan jumps in.
Well, that's just what happens when you have somebody living with dementia. I mean, you just have to kind of be calm. Don't get upset about it.
I'm not going to let her get away with that. I mean, she knows better than that. I mean, she would wash my mouth out with soap when I did stuff like that. So I told her that's enough of that, Mom. And like I said, she cursed me out, but I'm not going to have it. I mean, that's ridiculous.
So we have another person in the group, and she's saying that it's really embarrassing when that happens. But what she's thinking that is going on is that the filter in her brain isn't working anymore. And that's really common with dementia.
So how do we get that back?
Yeah, that would be great. So what do you do? How do you turn it back on?
I'm wondering if there's a chapter in the book that we could look at that might talk about these changes.
Oh, well, is there, I'm wondering if there's something even shorter than that. Like maybe toward the end of the book. It seems like there was something, there about it, wasn't it?
Someone said page 136.
Oh, forbidden words. Tell me about those forbidden words. What is it? What's going on here? Sure. Oh, I see. Oh, so if she's cursing, something upset her, huh? Wow. Okay. So we were in the parking lot, and what happened is the lady. Okay. So now So what happened is the lady was starting to back her car up, but she really wasn't backing it up. The lights went on, because when the car's going to back up. And my mom was close by, and I grabbed her and I said, Mom, move out of the way. She might be backing up. And that's when the lady paused and rolled her window down. That's when my mom swore at her.
Oh, so that's when she swore at her, was when you tried to get her out of the way and she thought she was fine. And
then she cursed me when I tried to get her to stop.
Oh, so when you tried to get her to stop to keep her safe, then that's when she got upset.
So what we're saying is, whether it's a group leader or a group member, I truly believe when you start to get comfortable with this book and you know where things are in it, it can be a really nice way to have people go, okay, so this is sort of something that could happen. But the next thing there is, so what does it mean? What can you do? What's going to happen? So my friend Ann is here. She wants to say hey. So there you go. Lean down a little bit, Ann.
Hi.
Hey, Ann.
Ann loves to come and visit with us.
How you doing?
Good to see you.
See you too.
Yeah. You having a good day?
Yes, sir.
Good job. Keep it up.
Go doctor today now.
She goes to the doctor today, though. So, and what? Tell me a little bit about going to the doctor. What's that about?
I can't pee and sting.
Oh, so when she goes to pee, it stings, and so that's why she needs to go to the doctor to get it checked out.
School, you should pick me up.
So, and the really nice person who takes care of her is going to pick her up at school. Larry Jones, her brother-in-law, Larry Jones, going to pick her up, take her to the doctors to get it checked out.
Yeah.
And that's going to be really helpful.
Yeah.
Because we don't want you to feel bad, and you sometimes get a little wobbly too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're not feeling real good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They hate too.
Yeah.
You hate?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't stand that.
I know. Okay, Miss Ann. Well, thanks for coming.
Bye, y'all. See you tomorrow.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, Miss Ann. Thanks for coming in.
Okay.
See you in a little bit.
Okay, see you tomorrow too.
Okay. Thanks, Ann.
Bye.
So there you go. So what you just got to see is absolutely impulsive language. You're going to the doctor. Yeah, I need to get looked at. Well, it's about my pee. Anne's very open. Anne is somebody who really likes to be helpful. But knowing what we know in the book, we also know, good pickup on our part to recognize that Anne was starting to have trouble and letting her family know so the family could then get it looked at to see if what she might have is the beginning of a UTI that's causing her some trouble. Because in this case, what if she also has a medical condition and she has diabetes? Yeah. So, all right, well, let's get back to work because that was a little sidebar, but I think it speaks to, again, how it is and why it is we're doing what we're doing. So we talked about then group leader. And again, I'm going over just some of the ways in which you might be able to use this. The next one is if you're a trainer or an educator. Maybe you're, somebody who trains or educates people specifically. You could actually select a chapter, pick an objective for the session, and then use the chapter and the objective to do some AELCs. And when I say ELCs, what I mean is we share an experience, we talk or share about the experience, then we talk about why it might be, and then we go back to the chapter and try to figure out how it all fits together. So let's take a look at chapter 2. Okay, so you'll have to turn to chapter 2. Let's see where chapter 2 is. Oh, yeah, it's about the different kinds of dementias again. So we're going to look at, let's say we've read the chapter, but now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the umbrella slide, and we're going to look at the different types of dementia slide. And I'm going to actually try something because my objective is to get you to notice some of the different kinds of dementia from somebody's symptoms. Okay, so I'm going to give you sort of a role play. I'm going to do something. Rachel, if you'll interact with me, that'd be great. Okay. And if Debbie, if you'll keep track and sort of give us some ideas here of what might be going on, because I'm going to bother Rachel so she can't do what she would be doing, which is follow the chat. Okay, so the one that that thing that we do with you do them and you go 1, 2. No, you go. That's not right. It's not 1, but it's like a 1, but it's not a 1. And then you go. No, you do 1. And then you go to the next ones and you put them down and then you put them and you go 1, 2, 3 and over, 1, 2, 3 and over, 1, 2, 3 and over.
So you do 1, 2, 3 and then you go over?
Yeah.
Deepa, can you show me a little bit about how it looks?
Yeah, wait, I've got them.
Got them.
Here. They're here.
Do you do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3?
Yeah, but you have to get it. It's not a 1. It's a here. Wait, this thing. What is this thing? What's that? You do those. You have to do those the elementary first.
Your ACE.
It's an A.
It's an A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
it's this one. There's other ones too.
There are other ones. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you do
But
that
you
one.
need this, and then you try to do this. See it?
Yep. That
But
one.
but this one isn't it. But it is. You can do it, but not like that. You have to go 3-2, but it's different. You know that thing?
Yeah, it's got the different ones. So maybe like the spade and the club.
No,
No?
but okay, so we'll pause.
Deepa, Kay is wondering about a temporal dementia.
A temporal lobe dementia. So why do you say that? I wonder if there's something in the book that might help you figure that out on those pages. Rachel, nice job, but you still weren't where I wanted you to go, just so you know.
I got that part, Deepa.
Yeah. Okay, so now how many people, though, could, if you were experiencing somebody like me in your life, suddenly would go, oh, yeah, that's sort of what she does. I know she's trying to describe something. I have no idea what she's trying to tell me. Yeah, those nouns, they just won't happen. Yeah. So maybe more of a temporal problem than a straight out Alzheimer's problem. So wonder if the memory is quite as bad as, So anyway, this is that you can use the book for that kind of possibility. And then we have things like you can ask a question and have folks use a section to sort of find the information. So let's look at page 7071. So this is a different way of doing it. And I didn't finish the AELC in case you're curious, because we're getting shorter on time. So look at 7071. What do you find there? What kind of things are there? What do you just notice right away? Dan, what are you noticing?
Well, I say this tongue in cheek, but the eye-opening thing is that it's all about vision.
Oh, so these pages are about vision. And actually 7071, you may go, wow, but there's more about vision. Like, wow. Wow, there's a whole chapter about vision. I just told you to look at page 7071, but there's actually an entire chapter about vision. And it's a pretty big chapter. But now go back to 7071 and what we were particularly focused on in 7071. What's the thing that stands out on 7071?
What I really see is the organized scanning, but also the object recognition.
Oh, okay. So Dan looked at that. So what I'm going to say is let's pay attention to visual attention. And let's look at the 3 different things that you do when you pay attention to something visually. You sustain attention, you select attention, and you can divide your attention. So if I were to be doing cards and I were to look up and say, hey, Rachel, have you got 3s?
3?
3s. Have you got any 3s?
Well, there's this one and that one. Well, that's not the 3. That's the one that looks like it, but it's not. But then that's the other one and the other, because it's the same, but it's not. Do they have to be the same one or not?
Oh, no, they can be different. So now what are we noticing about Rachel's visual attention? Did she pay attention to what I was asking for? Yeah. Was she able to switch back up to me visually? Was she scanning? Oh, now we could go and look at scanning in an organized way. So what it would do is I could start learning how to better help by making sure that I position myself alongside Rachel rather than across from Rachel. And then when I'm asking her to do something, I could show her something in my hand and then start gesturing to things so that we have a more successful interaction. So again, how can you use the book?
And
as a jumping
somebody has generalized or identified that elements of vision are connected with driving.
Oh,
And driving is often a very hot topic.
Very hot topic. So I'm wondering if it might be less stressful to say, like for right now, the doctor isn't wanting you to drive because he needs to really evaluate what's going on with your vision, because he's concerned about some visual shifts and changes that you've been having. It's not so much how well you see, but some other things. So he's wanting to do some more work with your vision, as opposed to you're living with dementia and that's why I don't want you driving. For some people, it might make a difference. Okay. Now, because we're running out of time, and I know we're getting down to where we have like less than 20 minutes, and I want to leave some time for questions. The next one we might go into is coach or care supporter. And how might you use this if your main focus was to really help people do a better job of caring for somebody? So one is to read and develop your own awareness, knowledge, and practice a skill. So here's where we might actually be trying something like, let's go to chapter 5. Okay, so go ahead and turn to chapter 5. Okay, you got chapter 5. And what is chapter 5 all about? If you just even look at the beginning of it, what is chapter 5 going to be about here?
The amygdala.
Yeah. And then let's turn to the last page where you see sort of the chart that says higher emotions, primitive reactions, lower emotions equal a responsive brain. So when somebody's emotions are down lower, they can more think. When their emotions are up high, you're going to see some real primitive reactions. So let's see what you think of my brain. Okay, ready? So this is ridiculous. I'm not doing this. Don't you touch me. What are you thinking? If you were to like look at the scale, what's your first thought there?
Looking like you're up at the top of the thermometer there.
People are saying high anger, off the scale, off the chart.
Scale.
No, off the scale would be, I whacked him already. But I'm using language, and I am using a lot of language. And if you were going to use the word to reflect back to me what I am, which word would you want to use with me?
People are saying furious.
Furious. Teepa, you're furious. Oh, you are so angry. Now, what am I doing to add emotion to it so that it's clear I got the feeling the person has?
The tone of your voice.
Yeah. I'm actually using a similar tone. Don't you touch me. I actually listen to the tone, the volume, the intensity at the same time I listen to they're spitting some words out. Yeah. So what might be the first words? I could go to the emotion, but she hasn't identified she's emotional. You need to identify she's emotional, because what does that mean? When you see she's at the top of the scale, what does it mean? What part of her brain is going to be very active there?
The primitive part of your brain.
So when I'm in the primitive, am I going to be able to think and use words? Am I going to get your words? Am I using some words though? Don't you get your hands off. Don't you touch me. No. So if you were going to use any words in that moment, what words do you think might be the best words to try? What you thinking? Given I'm not taking very many in, but I am putting a few out there.
Cricky said stop.
Ooh, if you say stop, and I think you're part of my problem, Don't you touch me. And somebody says, Teepa, you need to stop. I need you to stop. Or stop. Don't tell me.
She's thinking of stopping, like, I'm not touching you, I'm stopping.
So she's going to stop. Oh, really smart. Yeah. So if you're doing something, listen to me. Because if I'm bothering to put some information out, even in my primitive state, my brain is very primitive in this moment. So is it sounding like I'm frighting, I'm flighting, I'm fighting, I'm hiding, or I'm seeking? What do you think? Don't you touch me. Don't, no.
Fight.
Some fight. Yeah, some fight. Yeah. So
people were also thinking, I'm sorry, would be some of the first things they would try.
You are sorry. Because, yeah, probably not. Probably giving me strong visuals of what have I asked for? What am I asking for? Go ahead, say it louder, Dan. Quit whispering.
Looking for space.
So what am I saying? You're too close. You're too close. I want you to back off. I don't want you touching me. In other words, you might be within my arm's reach, or my perception is you're too close to me. So you might want to move back 1-2 steps. Or if you're in front of me, you may want to shift to the side so it doesn't feel like you got me trapped. So that's one of those things that, now there's more to this, but once we get to that place and I say, don't touch me, you could say, Rachel, what you got?
Teepa, you don't want me to touch you.
No touching.
No touching. No touching.
Rachel's doing another thing, which is holding her hands up near her face to show me she's not going to touch me. She's holding on to her own hands. So as a coach, I can use stuff in this book and then my knowledge of what makes sense. And there are other chapters in the book that are going to give me more information. But this chapter, the amygdala chapter, the emotional chapter, we hear a lot about challenging situations. And this is a chapter that might be really important as a coach if we're experiencing a lot of challenging situations. And so what we can start doing is give it as a resource. But we could also look at page 81. So this is another one, resource page. Let's see what you find on page 81. How do people take in that information? So she's saying, don't touch me. What does it mean about how we're making contact and what she's feeling is okay? So what part of her brain is not happy with us right now? Don't touch me. So I wonder if maybe we could try another way of getting data in, because it sounds like touching is causing a lot of distress. So what are some other ways? So are you starting to see how we could use this one page then to start to look at other things? So as a coach, this becomes something, and we certainly also have these as the poster set that you could put up afterward that could be something you're working on. But if you're trying to coach someone else, take a look and let's see if we could use these resources in another way. We could do role play, which I was going to show you page 54 to 60, which is Tom and Teepa in a couple, but we've also have those in TikTok if you want to go look at that. Dan and I are doing that one. So what do you want for dinner?
Well, I'm not all that hungry. What do you have in the fridge that wouldn't be too much trouble and it's lighter?
Well, it looks like I could do something with eggs, and I could make soup from leftover vegetables and some canned beans.
How about an omelet with some veggies?
Okay. Are you going to glass class after dinner?
Yeah, I need to pick up Jason and get some pliers, so I'll leave in about a half hour or so.
Okay. Now, that's the interaction we might have if Dan doesn't have dementia. But, what do you want for dinner?
What?
What do you want to eat tonight?
I'm going out tonight.
I know that. I wanted to know what you wanted to eat for dinner.
I have gas class tonight. I gotta take something with me. Do you remember what it is?
I'm not talking about that right now. I'll tell you later. Right now, I want to know what you want to eat for dinner.
Well, it sure sounds like you're talking to me right now. I don't remember what it is I'm supposed to take to class, but it's something that I need. I better call the guy who's going with me and see if we're gonna go get dinner on the way there.
What are you talking about? You're going to eat here before you go to the glass class. Jason is going with you, and you have to get your pliers out of the workshop before you go. Now, for the last time, do you want to eat? What do you want to eat for dinner?
Nothing. I'm not hungry. Why are you yelling at me?
I'm not yelling at you. Oh, maybe I was. So, this is a way we could do something more with role play. We could get people to talk about, have you had any of those interactions? Let's work on what option 3 is, which is the one we haven't done. So last 2, I better get them done quick. Care plan coordinator options. Oops, what happened to my, we should have a consultant. I somehow have lost it. Make sure it's in the PowerPoint slide once you get it, because I don't know what I just did with it. All right, let's review a piece of the book and apply it to what we're talking about. So like page 128, this is for care plan coordination. Page 128. Okay, turns out there's 5 different types of care that we could be doing. So given that your dad is in the Ruby Pearl state a lot of the time, I'm wondering if we want to come up with a game plan and a care plan that's more in the nature of a palliative comfort measure kind of plan, which means we're going to have to talk a little bit about some of the curative measures that we've taken in the past. So in the last 3 months, we've had 4 different episodes of needing antibiotics for aspiration and for UTIs. And we've used them, but what happened the last time is they ended up getting really significant diarrhea, and then we had to work on trying to manage that, and there was a lot of discomfort and pain. So I'm wondering if it's time to have a conversation about, do we keep doing the curative? Or given what you know about advanced directives that you and your dad talked about, is it time to start thinking a little differently? Now, if people don't understand that there are different kinds of care that can be delivered, what you get is what people want to give you. And people tend to think in single boxes. And what we want to think about is, over the course of dementia, things are going to change. What kind of care plan makes the most sense? Early, middle, late disease. And having conversations before we need to get there about what kind of care plan we want to put in place, and when it's time to shift gears, and when it's time to start asking questions. For somebody who's doing the care plan coordination, I think that's one of the most often missed elements, is recognizing what's our primary mode of care. Is it going to be most palliative with elements of curative, or we're going to really look maybe not at curative now? Or is it moving from rehab to a maintenance? And that's actually not necessarily a bad thing if we can maintain what somebody has for a while. Or maybe what we're going to be talking about is preventative. And some of the things we do that are preventative, there may come a time when we really start asking questions. Is this medicine just mostly to prevent something? And is that still an issue? Or is that something we don't need to worry so much about at this point in the disease? Or something we really want to worry about at this point in the disease? Another one is to use it as a resource or a go-to option when you're trying to determine what some of the possible supports might be for challenging situations. So for instance, in chapter 9 with wayfinding, it's like if you flip back to chapter 9. So let's take a look at, go to the middle and you can find the heading that says effective wayfinding cues. Effective wayfinding cues. There's a little page, it's page 94. So if we haven't been using these, this might be something, but if we have done all this, we've been doing this, and it's still not working, the person is still getting lost. They're still coming out and saying, can you help me? I need to get downstairs. And there's only one floor. Then it might be time to look at other chapters. But if we don't look at this page, we don't know whether we've expanded and used everything that we had. And now it's time to look at other options. So for me, this book is really meant to be a resource. So I'm going to quit sharing, and all these things that we've been doing, they'll be available. But now I want to ask folks if you have questions for me about using this book as a resource or using the book at all.
So somebody, actually, Sharifa asked, would this book be a great resource or companion for the family during workplace streaming? How would it be best to use that?
Yeah, so I think the book is a great resource. I, as a human being, the way I learn, I would not want to read it cover to cover. I would want to read a little at a time. And I'm not sure which one I would want to read first, but I certainly think we try to include in this one lots of things that are sort of starter questions and starter comments. I'm going to turn over to Dan to see if he wants to add anything on, because he was one of the folks that helped put this together. And then we'll have Debbie speak to that as well.
Yeah, I think for me, it's taking the different pieces. For so many of us, we come into not with the content or the knowledge that Teepa has clearly, but even being with her for 5 or 6 years now, I'm still learning. And this book, it teaches me enough at the surface level, but also things that I know it's brought in with more depth. Like I do joke about that vision thing, because I know it affects vision, but I never thought about the different levels of vision or even how I would use them. And my wife jokes about me having a healthy brain, but still having boy eyes and not being able to see what's right in front of me. But also seeing what I see in my dad, and just in little things like that I can look at in my own life. It's told in a way, or it's mentioned in a way that just makes things more easily understood and shareable with other people without using, it's got the fancy medical terms that Teepa can use, but it's also got language that people like me can understand.
Debbie?
Yeah, I would just add to that it's a guide, and it gives you that.
Debbie, you're muted. Okay.
Can you hear it? There's a little delay on my audio, but I would just add on to what Dan said, and that it's a guide that gives you information about brain function. And it's, the title of Understanding the Changing Brain is there's not a line in the sand that says you have dementia or you don't have dementia. All of our brains are in a state of change all the time. And the information in this book is just really valuable about diving into it and finding out what parts of the brain do what, and how does that translate when we have cognitive changes.
Cool. Okay, well, our time together is up, and I know some of you have to head out because you're on lunch break. And I know that some of you have other commitments and you need to head out. I also know if folks are wanting to get up with us, you can certainly connect with us at info@teepasnow.com. And I think our system is working okay for that, even though our site is sort of having some other issues with the upgrade and update and changes. So thanks everybody for being here. And I hope it was helpful. Take care all.